Hey everybody, welcome back to another news roundup. Hope you guys been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. Strap yourselves in because this is probably going to be the longest news roundup that we've ever had because we have quite a few topics to get through this week. I was thinking about maybe splitting this into next week, but there's going to be one long video regardless, so I might as well just get this all, in this one video because, it's the news from last week, so might as well just be consistent. So we got a lot of topics to get through, so we're just going to cut this short and we're just going to dive right on in. So, of course, one of the big stories of this week, probably the biggest story of the week, is the release of Snow White. Now, me and my brother did a review, so if you guys want to check that out, it is available online now. But we finally have some figures for its box office performance, and it's looking pretty grim. So, now, the projections for the film were also very low. They were aiming for at least $100 million as its debut, and fell a bit short. Now, before we get into into all that, another film that also flopped this weekend was The Alto Nights, which was the Robert De Niro gangster picture. We talked about the trailer when it came out. Didn't look all that interesting to me, and frankly, or evidently so, it didn't look all that interesting to a lot of other people. So, bombed really hard. I think it collected only like $3 million, and that has a budget of like $50 million. So, yeah, pretty big failure there for Warner Brothers. So, but just wanted to acknowledge that other notable piece that came out this weekend as well. Probably not a good idea to have been releasing it the same weekend as Snow White. So, but getting into Snow White proper though, as a worldwide global debut, at least according to the figures that are available on this is Sunday when I'm recording this, so we haven't gotten the figures for today, how it's performing today as of this recording. So we'll know tomorrow, Monday. But I'm just doing the video now because given with the money that's been collected so far, I just don't think that tomorrow is really going to make much of a difference. So currently, with its worldwide global debut, it is sitting at $87.3 million. So fell way behind its initial projections for at least $100 million. Skip Pacific's, domestically speaking, it collected $43 million, and internationally, it collected $44.3. Now, one very important thing to note about the international revenue is that in China specifically, the biggest market, I would say, for film internationally, the film opened to a tiny $900,000. So nobody in China cared about Snow White. Absolutely nobody cared about Snow White. Didn't even crack $1 million. So now getting into specifics regarding the production to Snow White, we talked about it plenty of times about the budget. Now there have been some reports that have made the budget seem a little bit lower than it seems. There's some reports saying 250, but I've heard a lot of reports saying 270. So I'm going to go ahead and say that the budget is 270. And that's just, wow. Now, and we know the reason for it obviously is due to delays that I feel were unwarranted just because in response to a lot of the controversies that were happening, or a lot of the conversations that were happening online. But I don't think that that's a reasonable excuse to delay something an entire year. So, but we have no figures regarding marketing costs. I think that there's a reason for it, and I'll get to that in a second. But I'm going to sit here and say probably 80 million to 100 million, probably 100 million, because that's typically how these things go, at least for Disney, that is. So if we're going to break it down, we have a $270 million budget, potentially an $100 million marketing cost. So as a total investment, as a total investment, we may be sitting at $370 million. So close to $400 million as an overall investment. And if you know my standards, or at least my preferences and how we see the break-even points, if it's a triple digit, I triple the amount. So for this to do well as an overall investment, it has to do $1.11 billion. And opening to 87.3 million currently right now. Yeah, this is a massive failure for Disney. And I am honestly not that surprised. I mean, the initial projections were extremely low. And I think Disney themselves knew that they were in trouble given those projections. And I've had a feeling that they would drop off once the movie rolled into theaters. So yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, given the conversations that have taken place online for the past couple of years, the costs that were really working against it, plus it didn't have a strong reception, despite what the premiere will tell you, which I believe is just more selective outlets that were going to be giving the film more of a positive rating than, basically a calculated premiere, not a honest premiere. But as other critics and audiences came to see it, it clearly was not creating a strong buzz. And what seems very evident to me is that everyone, including Disney themselves, the audience, all that, they're just kind of ready to move on. Because this not only was a PR nightmare because of just having to deal with all the controversies that came from the film, which we've talked about before, I feel was very unwarranted and very unfair in terms of the relations to the film, which I feel are very, very minor. It's now becoming a financial disaster. Like, it's not hyperbole to say that this is probably going to shape up to be one of Disney's biggest failures in the modern era. Like, I'm not joking, because I'm predicting a big drop-off coming into the second weekend. And with the Minecraft movie on the horizon, I feel like audiences are just going to want to move along to the next offering. And they're not really going to sit with this film or really desire to see it again. So, and it's very unfortunate, because, I mean, as if you've seen my review, I mean, I wasn't very happy with it either. But, just given all the controversy, which, as I've said, I believe is just pretty unfair and unwarranted, you would hope for a comeback story, of some kind, and you would hope that something like this would come out and perhaps be a little bit better than what people may be saying. But it's just not. It's very problematic as a film goes. And it is what it is. It's a failure. It's a massive failure. And I think Disney knows this. I think Disney knows it. And I think that they're just ready to move on from this little dilemma and let the film and the finances speak for themselves ultimately. And I seriously doubt that we're going to hear what the marketing costs were. I don't think so. Because I think if they're going to disclose that, I think it's going to really show how much the film seriously needs to make in order to be considered truthfully profitable. Because they were like saying like, oh, Mufasa did well. Look, it made $700 million. I'm like, well, there's a marketing cost that you guys are also forgetting. So that film was also technically a $300 million investment. So I don't think they're going to say anything. That's my guess. But because Disney knows that they have a failure. They know. They knew it a week ago. They knew it 2 weeks ago. They knew all the signs were pointing to it being a failure. I just don't think they predicted it to be this bad. So yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, that's all we can really say. So, all right. Going from one, I guess, controversy to the next. Let's get into something very interesting here regarding Warner Brothers. Now, Warner Brothers, of course, has had their own debacles over the years. Of course, one of the big ones was their decision to do the 8-hole HBO Max strategy, which we've talked ad nauseum about on the channel here, and how that really affected a lot of the momentum in regards to Hollywood. And there wasn't any discussions made to any studios or any production partners when they made that decision, that HBO Max strategy. They didn't inform anybody. No creatives, no production partners, nobody. This was completely an independent solo decision that had huge repercussions in terms of their relationships to people. That's why Christopher Nolan stepped away from Warner Brothers. And apparently with this production partner in Village Roadshow, which they were neck deep in a lawsuit with Warner Brothers over their release of the film of which they were partners on, The Matrix Resurrections, because Village Roadhouse has co-ownership over the Matrix franchise, I believe. So they were releasing The Matrix Resurrections, and they had apparently had a contract laid out saying that this would be a theatrical release. And with Warner Brothers releasing the film on streaming simultaneously to a theatrical release, it is then considered, of course, a breach of contract, and that's why they went and sued. And this is all alleged, so there's no confirmation of this. At least to my research, I haven't seen any like true confirmations to that. But apparently, Village Roadhouse, which has acted as a financer for many films under Warner Brothers, they are filing for a Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And they're citing this specific legal battle going on with the company as a reason to their bankruptcy. And the allegations within that, within the whole, relations within Warner Brothers is that Village Roadhouse has as I just mentioned, they finance a lot of movies with Warner Brothers. They're partners in a lot of financial decisions. And apparently, since the lawsuit was made, the allegations are that Village Roadhouse has been excluded as a partner on many projects based on film rights they themselves share with Warner Brothers, which may contribute to the income they were receiving from their production partner in Warner Brothers and why they ultimately are filing for bankruptcy. This may also be the reason why certain titles that the two partners hold ownership to haven't moved forward, like films like Sherlock Holmes or the Ocean series or a sequel to Ready Player One, as naming a few things that they cited in the article. That might be a reason. But that's all alleged, so we don't know. But according to Deadline, Village Roadhouse was trying to sell itself last year, but they failed to do so. Apparently, the legal battle that's currently still taking place, apparently, it's cost the company over $18 million in legal fees. And in that whole case, they also are reportedly being prevented, or at least the whole legal battle that it's taking place, it prevents them from actually selling them. So, from selling themselves, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's entirely true or if that's just them saying that, trying to cite a reason why they couldn't sell themselves. But I mean, it sounds a little discrepancy there. I don't know. Sorry, my throat's a little dry. Had some water. But with their legal battle and their lack of a strong financial support from Warner Brothers, allegedly, the company then couldn't afford to pay off its writers because they were working on their own projects. So they started to develop a independent type of initiative back in 2018, and that's when they started to produce their own content. And then again, like before the pandemic, before all the stuff that happened with Warner Brothers and HBO Max, that's when they started to create these ideas to become independent and create their own projects. And they had some writers involved with these projects, and they apparently could not afford to pay off these writers. So This actually led to the WGA, the Writers Guild of America. They had to issue a stop work order to this company due to unpaid contracts, and these unpaid contracts referred to projects that these writers were working on exclusively for Village Roadshow without the support of a major studio as partner. So this is what I mean by their independent initiative. So there was also that, and their staff at Village Roadshow had fallen to only 11 people. 11 people. And the reason for why that is that they're trimming down the amount of people, because in 2024 they had around 45. Now they're trimming it down to 11 people with the goal to sell itself in the future. So hopefully to, make it more reasonable for them. So, and also the CEO of the company, Steve Mosco, he apparently stepped down from the company this year in January. So yeah, Village Roadshow is falling apart. And as we've illustrated, they are financiers, longtime financiers with Warner Brothers, helping develop production partners on many notable franchises like the Matrix series and other things. So if I'm reading this correctly, at least by how I've understood this, Warner Brothers appears to have been a large financial support or a large financial supporter of Village Roadshow, essentially having large ownership over their company. And when when the Village Roadshow sued for a breach of contract, Warner Brothers then decided to cut their funding and their ability to grow independently from their studio and from branching out into their own entity to develop their own content, their own projects. In that view, if I'm painting the story correctly, if I'm not just inserting a bias or anything like that, and just let me know if anyone's more familiar with this whole story, it is absolutely shady and scummy of this studio to do this. They've essentially destroyed a company because of their unwillingness to be subservient to their own decision making. That's essentially what it is. Village Roadshow, if it's true about the breach of contract, they had every right to sue. If you made an agreement saying that we are, and trust me, I actually would believe that because of just how Warner Brothers dealt with that HBO Max strategy, informing no creatives, no production partners. This is the reason why they lost Christopher Nolan. A huge, financial benefit to them. They lost him. This is why the theatrical experience is in the state that it is in, because of these sort of decisions that are in place. It is based on a reactionary and selfish decision that isn't being considerate or fair to their business partners. It's just, yeah. That's what it was. And it put, it made all their production partners, Legendary, all these other people, they made them feel unaccepted, not inclusive, and not feeling as if that they actually have a voice within their own business, and having like dictatorship to some extent. So, in the case of Village Roadshow, if it's true about how involved Warner Brothers is, or how integral Warner Brothers is to keeping that production partner, that company alive, and for you to cut the funding simply because you breached a contract, that's fucked up. Just to put it bluntly, it's really fucked up. I hope they bounce back. I hope that they seek out a different partner in the future, hopefully like a Universal, a Paramount, a Sony, hopefully someone swallows them up. Hopefully someone, does something with it. Because clearly, I'm reading this correctly, Warner Brothers is not a good partner, especially under its current leadership. If all I'm hearing and how I'm seeing it is correct. I could be wrong about how I'm looking at this. If you guys are more familiar with the story, please just tell me in the comments if I maybe am getting it wrong, but that's fucked up. That is really fucked up if that is the case. If they just literally just destroyed a company just because they got caught with their pants down and Village Roadshow is pointing that out, and now Village Roadshow has to ultimately pay the price for pointing out the obvious. That's crazy. That's really, really crazy. So, yeah, if you guys are more familiar with the story, please let me know, because I really want to know if that's true, because that's insane. I know about the lawsuit. I know that's been going on for a while, and I know about also the WGA. I read some stuff about that, but if all of that is in relation to this funding or this large financial support that they get from Warner Brothers, if that's the reason, and if their rationale behind it is because you don't agree with our decisions, even though we laid out a decision of how to release this project, like, it's just, it's really, really shady and just not right that what Warner Brothers did. It's just really, really not cool. It wasn't cool how they did the HBO Max strategy, and there are consequences to that, but you do not go around punishing people just because they disagreed with your decisions that you made on your own. You didn't talk to anyone else about it. You made those decisions on your own. Don't start punishing people just because they didn't like it, or how they didn't like the way you went about it. So, not cool. Not cool at all if that's the case, if all this is true, and how I'm seeing it is true. So, speaking of Warner Brothers, let's talk about Mickey 17. We did a review on it, or I did a review on it. Found it not too great. Not the worst, but not too great. But a lot of you haven't seen it, though, because according to sources familiar with the finances for Mickey 17, provided from Variety, the film is looking to be a loss for Warner Brothers because they're about to lose around $75 million to $80 million from its theatrical run. A source that's close to the film has disputed the claims, suggesting the losses are a lot lower, but given just its current performance and with knowledge of the marketing expenses that contribute to that investment, I am really not surprised hearing that they're losing a substantial amount of money on this. I mean, audiences are very specific nowadays. But the one thing that they're consistent on is that they are more accepting of a familiar IP and a familiar name, not original content. Unless social media deems it interesting, they're not really going to show up for it. They'll clamor for, like, that's the hypocrisy, of course, within audiences, is that they will advocate for more original content, but then they will not seek it out. Into their heads, it's because it's not a good film, right? But if you want to support that original content, if you want the studios to make more original content, like what they put out as original content in the form of Mickey 17 is their test to see if audiences will accept that form of content. I'm not saying you have to like Mickey 17. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that, that's the deal, and it's, I definitely agree with people who will say that we need better films. Absolutely. Because that will definitely help in persuading people to see more of original content. So, because in the case of Mickey 17, it just wasn't that strong of reception. It was kind of mediocre reception, really. So, yeah, it wouldn't shock me if this gets dumped on HBO Max in like a week or two. So, but damn, it just sucks to be Warner Brothers right now, man. We have now Mickey 17, and we just had the Alto Nights this past weekend just bombing as well. It's just like, damn, man, I would hate to be Minecraft or Superman right now. I've read that Warner Brothers is putting a lot of pressure on that Superman movie to do well. we'll see what happens. I have my doubts for Superman. Minecraft is already not looking too great in terms of a financial take, but we'll see. It definitely puts a lot of pressure on these other tentpoles to perform well for this specific company, that is. But we'll just see how the year unfolds. So, all right, let's talk about Saw. Saw 11 is apparently not moving forward for now. Now, according to a report from the Hollywood Reporter, there was a handful of rumors circling the internet about the progress with Saw 11, and there has been some confirmation to those rumors. There has been, quote, zero progress in development of the next film in the Saw series, which currently has a release date for this year, probably going to end up being delayed pretty soon here. Now, there was a draft that was delivered around the spring of 2024. So there is a script that exists, and according to the writers, it's not an issue of them, so they're not being told to rewrite the film. Rather, that the issue stems actually from the higher-ups, from the producers and the studio. They apparently, with Lionsgate, they're apparently not finding common ground for the film. So, in other words, it's creative differences. It's not creative differences with the writers, but it's creative differences with the higher-ups, the suits, basically. So the film originally had a date for September 2024 before being delayed an entire year. No word though if the creative team, like the current writers or the current director, because they have a director also attached to the film as well. I forget who it is, but there's no word if that team is still actively involved at this time. It's just, as it is, it sounds like the film has just not made any progress since the year. Since after, delays and all this stuff, no progress has been made. So as it stands, it's one of two options. Either, because if it has to do with the studio and the producers, if that's the issue here, and if they're not finding any common ground, there's two options they're gonna take. It's either going to be an imminent creative overhaul, meaning that they're going to change the whole vision or change, this vision to where they find middle ground, or they're potentially just going to roll out to a different distributor. If it comes to it, depending on who holds, who has a higher stake or higher, who's got the deeper pockets, basically, when it comes to the rights, which, basically is going to be Lionsgate, just basically just mandating that we need certain things. But there's no specifics to the issues at hand. It seems like it's largely alluding to creative differences, because it's not a financial issue. I mean, the Saw films, they do well. I mean, they're done for dirt cheap, very Blumhouse style type of like productions. They're very, very cheap. And they perform very well. The last Saw film did very well. So they're not financial risk at all. So who knows what the issue is? To me, it sounds like creative differences. The only thing that's clear to me is that it's not coming out this year. So don't expect this movie to come out this year. It may, in fact, just be a reshuffling of their film slate, given how Lionsgate has performed as a company lately. I mean, just check back to last year with Borderlands and some other films, who knows? Or it could be another incident similar to Amazon and James Bond, how that whole thing played out. We'll see. We'll see with more information, once it comes out, seeing what's happening behind the scenes. We'll get an idea of how things are going, in a couple of months or so, whenever information comes out. But the two things that we do know for sure is that it's not going to come out this year, and that it will eventually happen, because these movies make money, so they're not just going to just let it rot. They're going to find a way to make it work. Either they come to a decision or they don't. They seek out another distributor, or they find a way creatively to make it work with this one. So that's what it seems like to me anyway. But we'll see. We'll see with more news as we move along through the year. So, speaking of film rights, let's talk about Jason Bourne. According to the Hollywood Reporter, the Robert Ludlum estate has decided to sell off the film rights to Jason Bourne to a different distributor. So originally it was at Universal Pictures, and it seems like they have decided to just leave Universal Pictures. So now, before the sale had happened, there was development happening for another Jason Bourne film. It was going to be helmed by Edward Berger, the guy behind the I don't know if it's a remake or just a adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front, which I really loved. It was really great. And most recently did Conclave, which I thought was also very good. That film apparently had no real progress since 2023, which I believe it was probably announced during that time. So it's ultimately has been scrapped. It's been canceled, and they are now moving forward with a sale instead. So the last film of the series that was released from Universal Pictures, simply titled Jason Bourne, that was nearly 10 years ago. That was back in 2016. So yeah, so it's been a while since they have used the rights. Now, among those that have had meetings with the estates, some studios included are Apple, Skydance, and Netflix. So there's potential that this might just end up with a streamer. So we'll see. The hope with the sale is to generate new life into the series and to make it more of a regular occurrence in the media. So basically more movies, maybe a TV show down the line. But there's been no word, though, if Matt Damon will be involved under the new ownership or if it's just a reboot. It sounds like it's a reboot. Because I don't think Matt Damon was... I think Matt Damon was curious about coming for Edward Berger's film, but I don't think that really materialized. At least conversations didn't really materialize, it seems. But yeah, man, I mean, it's been nearly 10 years since they've used the license, since they've put the film rights to good use, or any use, really. So, yeah. So I don't blame the estate for wanting to look for a different distributor, someone else who wants to actually care about their rights, their license, and put it to use. Because clearly Warner Brothers or Universal was not really caring to do much of anything with the series at this point. Hence why they essentially lost the film rights. They lost them. They didn't want to lose them, but they basically lost the film rights. So we'll see who ends up grabbing the rights. Likely, again, like I said, probably going to become a streaming exclusive given the names that are out there. I honestly think this is an idea. I honestly can see Amazon taking it because, and I know that where this can go, and this is very easy in terms of like just how you can make these two things work. You make a Bond and Bourne movie. Simple as that. I think that'd probably be in their best interest financially too, because that's one of the last like pair ups that we have yet to see. So I know it's something that people wanted to see anyway. So that could be interesting. Sorry, it just was weird. I was trying to wave at someone, but then it became awkward. But yeah, this could be interesting. But I think it's pretty clear that they had to let it go at this point because it's been nearly 10 years since they've made a film or done anything with the license. So yeah, so I think the estate was just like, all right, well, if you're not gonna, I think they probably saw also development for that film, and they were like, that Jason Bourne film they were making with Edward Berger, and they're probably like, okay, yeah, so we're gonna move on to a different distributor now because it doesn't seem like y'all want to do much with this license. So there you have that. Alrighty. Next topic. So apparently we are getting a sequel to Coco. During a shareholders meeting with Disney, Bob Iger, the CEO at Disney, he revealed that a sequel to Coco is in early development. So the film will see the original directors returning to helm the project and is aiming for a 2029 release. Now, under Pixar's reign, this makes it the third sequel, the third of a sequel to be announced. So there's Toy Story 5 that's coming out, Incredibles 3, and now we have Coco 2 also in development. So, the only reason that this is being developed is to ensure future returns on major investments within this division. I think that this is also kind of signaling not as much faith in Pixar's original content. I don't know if that kind of signals things about Elio or other things. Maybe they're not as confident that those are going to perform as well. And they're pushing for Pixar to do other things that are more familiar lines of stories, because that's what it seems like to me when I heard that announcement. It just sounds like the company is trying to secure better profits for the future and nothing else. Because narratively speaking, I don't think anyone wants this. I mean, don't get me wrong, it'll probably do good business because the original did really well. But as far as story-wise goes, it's like I don't think there's a reason to return to this. And judging by the release window, this appears to be a really recent decision. Because it doesn't seem like that I have any script ready or anything of that nature. Maybe there's a pitch that the original directors threw at them not too long ago. Who knows? But I don't know. But I like the original. I'm pretty content with that specific story. I'm not desiring to see another film. I don't think a lot of other people are either. But yeah, you are getting a sequel to Coco. It's just going to be a long time until you get to see it. So 2029 is when Coco 2 arrives. So we'll see how it is then. Alrighty, we got some news in regards to the ongoing legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. We have 2 dismissals that are in progress now, both of which were discussed in the same week from Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. This is Ryan Reynolds kind of now really taking center stage in the whole debacle because he's now addressing things within his motion to dismiss claims that were made by Justin Baldoni in regards to, because remember, Ryan Reynolds is being sued alongside his wife for mockery of Baldoni's character in the Deadpool Wolverine film, amongst other allegedly false claims that they potentially have made, which we've discussed on this channel is pretty likely. But Ryan Reynolds, has sent out a motion to dismiss the case. And in his motion to dismiss the case, his lawyers, they don't appear to dispute the claims about the nice pool character that's allegedly based on Justin Baldoni. But what they suggest is that Baldoni has thin skin for complaining about it. Okay? Now, in addressing the accusation made by Justin Baldoni, which suggests that Ryan Reynolds called him a sexual predator and pressured Baldoni's agency to drop him, his lawyers suggest that their client being Ryan Reynolds, he should be able to exercise his opinion, even if their person bringing forth those allegations, have, quote, hurt feelings. So in essence, sorry that you feel that way, buddy. That's what they're saying. His lawyers also state that Ryan Reynolds is not providing a false statement of Baldoni, but a negative opinion of the guy. Okay? The accusations, according to his lawyers, are deficient, and he is willing to stand by his wife, Blake Lively, and defend her. Okay. I'm going to continue to hit when we get to. I'm going to continue to Blake Lively's dismissal, and then we'll, kind of show you how these two are full of shit. So in Blake Lively's dismissal, Ryan Reynolds made his dismissal on Tuesday. Blake Lively made hers on Thursday. So Blake Lively, who is being sued by Justin Baldoni for defamation, she's requested a dismissal as well for her lawsuit, or for his lawsuit, on the grounds of a state law in California that apparently protects sexual harassment accusers. Now, I've looked into the state law. It basically means that, or at least according to her lawyers, the law prohibits the accused, Justin Baldoni, to countersue, and also grants her ability to seek payment of fees and damages from Baldoni to give to her attorneys. Yeah. Basically, what she is saying in legal talk is, shut the hell up. I want all the spotlight. You're not going to get any opportunity to defend yourself in court because I'm going to throw this really obscure state law to... I'm not sure entirely if that's like... I'll take back what I said earlier when I said I read the state law. I read in relation to the case how they presented the state law. That's how I should have phrased it. My bad. If that's true, how she's phrasing it, if that state law is like, if that's absolutely true, then that's a whole other discussion, but I won't get into it. But I don't agree with that law. I'll just say that. I think that's very, very wrong. But instead of directly addressing the claims that Justin Baldoni or that Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are being accused of, instead of them directly addressing these claims, both of these people choose to gaslight and abuse laws potentially in the hopes that you'll be an idiot. I mean, this is just classic gaslighting. Just like his wife, Ryan Reynolds is circling around the subjects, he's talking some shit, and then he leaves it at that. As per what they're both saying in their dismissals, they're basically suggesting that they can say whatever the fuck they want, they can make whatever comments they want about somebody, and the receiving party should just take it. They should just take it, because Justin Baldoni has, quote, hurt feelings, thin skin, because that's clearly not, these comments clearly have not destroyed this man's career. It's clearly not taken his agency away, his ability to move forward in his career. Clearly that's not what happened. Yeah, it's no wonder why he's suing you guys, because you both come across as bullies and assholes. I mean, if you're able to admit that your comments are of the opinion of a guy, right? You're willing to admit that. Like, that's what his lawyer said. Ryan Reynolds' lawyer said that, this is just his opinion. Okay. And you're also willing to stand with your wife, who is also suing Baldoni for very similar reasons, of which she cannot prove. Okay. Why is it then inconvenient for you when these accusations are extended to you? And you have no defense or argument for what Baldoni is saying. Is it then your opinion at that point that Justin Baldoni is a bad guy? Okay, prove it to us. Prove it to us. Is it really an opinion at that point, or are you just talking shit? That's what it is. That's the same thing with his wife. Where is the proof? Okay, I don't want to hear about, legality. You enforce that. You're the ones who enforced it. Your wife requested for a confidentiality order. You guys are the people who are trying to keep it all hush-hush. Instead, Baldoni's lawyers, out on Front Street. They'll tell you everything. They'll put out they have a whole website that has all sorts of information that you guys can comb through. That take away a lot of the credibility from Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's claims. So instead of trying to address the claims and provide proof, what do? They just call him out. They call him a bitch, essentially. They can't just he can't just take it like a man. It's like, shut the hell up. I mean, is Justin Baldoni, like, is he supposed to just shut his mouth? No. It's you guys who need to shut their mouths. Okay, he's got the receipts. He's willing to actually publicly put it out there. Where the hell is your receipts? Where's your wife's? Where's the counter rebuttal? Where's these 2 actresses that you supposedly have that will vouch for you in court? From the set, from the It Ends With Us, that movie. Who are those 2 actresses? And also, why are you even wanting to dismiss this case at all? If you know you're in the right, why is it then in your best interest to dismiss the case? If you know you're going to win the case, why step away from the case? The only reason they want to dismiss this is because it's affecting their status in the industry. That's all it is. And instead of presenting evidence to support their claims, instead of trying to make themselves look like actual victims that they proclaim to be, they come across exactly as Baldoni is describing them. Specifically Lively. You're playing right into his hands, guys. You've essentially played yourself. These comments from your dismissals are just bad. They're bad. I know the lawyers are speaking on your behalf, but still, it's bad. It's bad, man. And now they want it all to go away, and they still expect us to buy their story. They want to hide now, which is regular in this whole legal situation if you've been following this with regards to Blake Lively, how she's been handling it. Yeah, dude. I say again, why is this case being pushed for an entire year to go to trial for? Just go to trial right now. Just go to trial right now. Or just dismiss the fucking case. At this point, we already know the answers. We pretty much know Baldoni is innocent. Is he completely innocent? No. Yet they bring up stuff about his past podcasts and stuff like that. And the judge also has shot that down. He's like, how the hell does this relate to the production? How does this relate to this time right here? And they were not able to prove that. So that's why the judge threw that out, because there was no need to go into that, because there's no proof. There's no any substantial evidence or any substantial this and that to show a display of abuse or all these things. So there's no need to go into his past. Yes, he's clearly has not been the best when it comes to being around women, and he's made a podcast now to, at least from what I've been told or seen, to talk about how men can actually be better towards women. I mean, are people not able to change? Of course they can. So, I don't know. This is just those comments were just so hilarious to me. It's hilarious, especially with this watching this play out. It's just, yeah. So I hope that they dismiss their dismissals. I hope we just continue with this case, because, or hell, just you give it to them at this point, because they're just going to keep on talking nonsense, and we all know clearly what's up. So yeah. So it's just silly, and I just kind of am ready for a trial. I'm just ready to see it play out in court. But we'll have to wait till next year. So, alrighty, let's talk about Warner Brothers once again. It appears that a film of which they wrote a tax write-off to, that being the Looney Tunes feature entitled Coyote versus Acme, which brought up some controversy online in regards to just, people feeling that it was unjust for a film to just get a tax write-off, and all that jazz. They basically essentially shelved it. Well, it appears that that because they also granted, well, they didn't shelve it. My bad. They don't want to, they're not going to be involved as distributors. So they allowed the film to be shopped around to other studios who wish to distribute the film. And it appears that the film is going to be gaining a distributor in the form of Red Ketchup Entertainment, who most recently distributed another one of Warner Brothers' Looney Tunes features, another of which also they didn't want to distribute it, entitled The Day the Earth Blew Up, which, mind you, also has flopped at the box office. So, now, according to Variety, before this specific deal with Red Ketchup Entertainment, the film had several screenings to major distributors, including Amazon, Apple, and Netflix. None of them has decided to pursue a deal after a screening. Now, the sale for this film specifically to Red Ketchup Entertainment, this film specifically, not to a specific distributor, just wanted to make sure I'm phrasing that correctly, it will be around $50 million. So it's going to be 3 times higher than the price tag that came with The Day the Earth Blew Up, which sits around $15 million. So, well, here's the thing. The reason why Warner Brothers wrote a tax write-off to this film is because the test screenings were poor. It was the same reason that they wrote a tax write-off to Batgirl. They saw how bad it was performing in the test screenings, and they were like, no, we're not going to distribute this ourselves. Now, to be fair, if they did this for Coyote versus Acme, granting the crew to shop around to other studios, I think you maybe, well, actually no, they couldn't do that with Batgirl because, well, they could have, if they wanted to, but other notable properties, maybe, who knows? Because I've just noticing that they appear to not have like a strong relationship with Looney Tunes. It seems, I don't know why it is with Warner Brothers. I heard they like took off the Looney Tunes cartoons from their platform, HBO Max. So I don't know what's up with them. Something's kind of going up with Looney Tunes, but this feels more or less a shepherding of material for Red Ketchup Entertainment. It just seems like they're just trying to collect projects to kind of give their company a name, more relevance, more of a relevancy in terms of a name, and less so of the quality of the product. Because it's evidence that the film wasn't testing well. Even within shopping around to other studios, it's clear that it wasn't screening well, it wasn't testing well. And that's why a lot of the major studios have passed up on this project, because they don't see any value in it, nor did the company that produced it seems to really have confidence in it based off of poor test screenings and all that. So this seems like a strategic purchase to potentially build up their own company's name as a brand, not because of the fate of the product. It just seems more of just assets. So if anything, right now, purchasing another Looney Tunes related piece, I think, especially when your first attempt just flopped at the box office, I don't think it's exactly the smartest of ideas. So, but I think this is a hope to gain traction as a name. I think that's really all it is. But good on the movie for, hopefully now seeing some form of release, I guess. But yeah, I doubt anyone's gonna see it. We talk about wanting people for these movies to be released because it's fairness within the creatives, but at the same breath, we're not gonna seek these movies out. Hence why the tax write-offs exist. Because I see that's from the test screenings how people responded to it. So. And I don't know what it is with Warner Brothers with Looney Tunes right now. It just seems like there's some weird distance between the two. I don't know what it is, but maybe if you guys know, let me know. But yeah, it seems like Coyote versus Acme is going to be coming out at some point. Maybe some point this year, it seems. But yeah, good on the movie. I just don't think that it was secured for the reasons that people may think. So. Alrighty, we have a couple of trailers to get into, and then we will call it a day. So let's get into it. So the first trailer we're going to discuss is the official teaser trailer for Happy Gilmore 2. Now, we talked about a trailer for Happy Gilmore 2 last year, I believe. And I think it was like Christmas Day or something that they like dropped the trailer. And yeah, so now we have an official trailer, official tease. And man, I really don't know who was clamoring for another one. The first one was okay. And to me, based on the trailer, like the only person who really appears to really want this is Adam Sandler, as the footage kind of comes across more self-aggrandizing and not really as natural. Like this whole adoption of a new mentality, basically catering to a younger demographic, which is their cheap way of saying, hey, this isn't a film for millennials. It's a film for all ages. See, look, he's with the young kids. He's with your kind of crowd. I don't know. I don't personally care. I doubt many are genuinely interested. Some probably will be. But yeah. I don't think it's going to be that big of a draw. Putting in the summer, too, they have a release date now, July 25th, 2025. Okay. I don't think it's that kind of movie, but maybe I'll be wrong. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, but I really don't think there's much value in the specific film, and I think a lot of people feel the same way, so... Alrighty, we have the official trailer for a film called Materialist. This is starring Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal. This is being written and directed by Celine Song, who made her directorial debut with Past Lives, which I did see, and I thought it was decent. Has a release date for June 13th, 2025, and... well... on one level, I do understand the value in such a story outside of just literally seeking value in a relationship. Like, I'm not really won over by what's essentially a woman messing around with two guys. I never really liked that idea, and I didn't like it in Challengers, and I don't like it here. I'm never liking that whole gimmick in some rom-coms or some kind of storytellings. It just doesn't really work for me. It just kind of degrades the people, not necessarily makes the whole thematic study feel more powerful. For another, it's just the cast themselves. I mean, they're very wooden. I mean, I know they're well known. I mean, that's why the film is getting the attention that it is, but I just think that cast is so wooden. I think all the actors are just not that great. I'm not crazy about Pedro Pascal, not crazy about Chris Evans, not crazy about Dakota Johnson, so I just don't think any of them are really that great. So outside of what I can glean to be a fair aesthetic, I just don't think there's much merit to what I'm seeing. Like, Past Lives wasn't that great either for me, but the intrigue with that film is the distance that was between each person, that was between the woman and the man. I don't think this really understands that. I think that's why it's not registering as being all genuine or really all that necessary in terms of an overall story, like function. Like, why do I need to see this? Why is the story needing to be told? Sort of deal. I just don't think it's really resonating for me because of just that that really odd form of intimacy that it's wanting to display. I just think the distance in past lives created a lot more interest. This is doing the opposite, and it's just really putting me at distance with the film. So, and finally, we have a teaser trailer for a film called Together. This stars Alison Brie and Dave Franco, both of which are married in real life. This is being written and directed by Michael Shanks, who is in his directorial debut, being distributed by Neon. And this has a release date for August 1st, 2025. This played at Sundance and then got bought by Neon. And I gotta say, if what I believe it's doing is what it's doing, which is essentially representing a bond between two individuals through a very metaphorical setting and using horror as a backdrop to really heighten its illustrations. I'm then curious by those optics, if that's the way that it's choosing to deliver its ideas. And a really great trailer, by the way. I really like the trailer. Like, just by its just edits, just the overall just design of the trailer, I thought it was a really good trailer. So I'm hoping that it's not just the trailer. I hope that it's actually representative of the movie. Because if it's all too literal and not as vague as the trailer kind of presents it to be, then I don't think I'll be as interested. So I'll have to see another trailer to really determine if I am interested or if it was just good, if it was just a well-made trailer. So for now, it has my interest, but we'll see with another trailer if my interest dips or not. So just have to wait and see. But yeah, that's going to be it for this news roundup, guys. Thank you guys for sitting through. This was a long one. Lots of topics for this week, guys. So I appreciate it if you sat through the whole video. So let me know about all your thoughts in regards to Snow White, Jason Bourne, the rights being sold off, Coco 2 happening, the legal battle still going on with Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively, Warner Brothers kind of being dicks and losing money. Let me know all your thoughts on all these topics in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.